Thursday nights on SimSpeed TV, it's RaceKraft V8 Veterans Championship. V8 Vets as we go to Winton Motor Raceway for the Bush Ranger 200. David Haynes here with Brock Cadeye and Daniel Yeaman to bring you coverage as we go local tin top racing at a local tin top racing track.
Hello everyone, it is good to be back in the box here with Daniel and David, and yeah, back to another one that's, well, relatively local to me. Sandown is my real local, but Winton's not too far away here in Victoria, so a nice track kind of hidden in the middle of just country Victoria. You kind of just come across it driving on your way to Sydney and go, there's a racetrack here, but really fun little place. It's tight. It's got a lot of sort of almost these 180 turns, great overtaking opportunities, but a lot of risk when you've got to try and make it to the corner before biffing people off, and there's no room for mistake with the grass often leading to a concrete wall.
Track's been extended a couple of times. The most recent one includes the new pit building and turns 10, 11 and 12. That happened in 1997 to give a total track length of 3 kilometres. Hey, not dissimilar to Snetterton. So then turns 1 and 2, the S's, key overtaking opportunities there, and at turn 3 and maybe even at turn 10 or 11. The most signature part of this lap, in my mind, is that long turn 5 into the 3 connected hairpins of 7, 8 and 9. You see the track's a little bit wider there around the camping and the skid pad and underneath the shade of a couple of the trees as well.
Yeah, you're very right. I would agree. One of the most iconic parts is turn 5, 6 into those rolling hairpins, and really great opportunity there for side-by-side racing, moves to be done. But you do have to be careful, as you mentioned, with that track skinnying up. You kind of go from almost having space for 3 cars to 1.5 to 2. So the guys are going to have to be smart out there tonight. 12 turns, clockwise race here, and I think we're going to be in for a good one here. The times are looking pretty tight in practice.
Yeah, always are. A quick lap around, and we have so many drivers in RaceKraft V8 Vets that we've got to stack them into 4 different splits. This is the top split, split 1, and it is also heavily populated. Looking at about 40 drivers for tonight, but the top of them all at this stage of the championship is Jordan Ross. 925 points. He's picked basically every point up that he can as we've gone along, and that has him ahead of Ken Latta, Darren Lobb, Wayne Walker and Mark Poynton. Scott Mackay, Dean Logsdale, Troy Stone Street, Stephen Banks and Luke Allman picking up some spots in the pecking order after last week at Barber. And also John Latham picking up 11 spots. So you can see there, as I don't think we had David Nash. He was a DNS, did not start last round. And that has dropped him quite a few spots. That's the top 10 as they stand at the moment. It's the who can stop Jordan Ross, or will it be Ross the Boss kind of show this season.
Yeah, Jordan Ross has been the class of the field, and every time he goes out there, he just manages to pull out exactly what he needs. Even when guys get close to him, he's just in full control there. But good to see last week some good performances from Latham being the biggest movers up the charts, but also Mackay, Logsdale and Stephen Banks. I think it's great to see them get a couple of solid races under their belt here. And as you can see, anything can change in this championship, even if we're, after 5 rounds here. Doesn't matter, a couple of good races and you're right back in that top 10 again.
Yeah, exactly. And the flip side is a bad race here with more than 40 drivers can be incredibly tough on your points haul if you're normally looking to finish inside of the top 10. So many drivers of a high caliber in this top of 4 splits keeps everyone on their toes. With 200 kilometres of racing ahead of us. This is how it'll play out. It's 67 laps, 201 kilometres. To be a classified finisher, you've got to do 75% race distance, and here today, that'll be 51 laps. Starting fuel for this 200 kilometre race is 50 litres. Shorter the race, normally the smaller the starting fuel is, and also a 70% fuel tank cap in place. Looking at the fuel burn there and the total fuel that we expect the drivers will need to take on board. And as is usual for the format of 2 compulsory pit stops, CPS window opening at the end of lap 2, and it'll be about lap 30 or 31 that you'd be able to brim your tank and get home from there. So that's often a point where we see a flurry of pit stops.
And now we've got the possible pit stop strategies to support that compulsory 2 pit stop rule there. So you've got your early stops there, so stopping very early in the race there. You get a heap of fuel on, then you run a little bit to that critical lap, lap 30, top up, and you go to the end. Then you've got your even stints there, so that's just cracking the race. That's lap 20, that's that first stop for your even stint, and then you go to lap 43, just really evenly balance the tyres and the fuel out, and you got your late stop. So you hit at the same time as the even, but you'd run super long and get to lap 57, short stop, get some real fresh tyres on there and go for it. So you'll probably see a variety of all of these throughout the night depending on everybody's individual situations.
The other thing is that while we've got about 40 drivers, there are 30 pit stalls at Winton, so 10 of them will be shared. Your top 10 from qualifying will be sharing their pit stalls with 29th to 39th or so. So something to keep out and an eye on in this pit lane here at Winton. That's rather slow, rather tight, and we're going to fit a lot of cars and drivers into it. It's also an interesting pit entry here as well that we'll be keeping our eyes on when we get into it. Qualifying wraps up shortly, then that takes us into the warm-up and into our 67-lap race. So an update on how we stand as far as penalties and everything goes here, Brock.
Yeah, so licence points after round 5, and Chad Lewis has been, well and truly in it. I think we can safely say Tim Nicol as well. We did see earlier in the season Tim Nicol got involved in those first few rounds in a lot of incidents. So looks like they've served their pit lane start as well. So now they're back to just continuing to race with the field. Mark Poynton and Bruce Tannick are on 12 points, so they're knocking on the door of a pit lane start as well, so got to be careful out there. Then the waters get muddied a bit more with a lot of different drivers here, all having 7 or 5 points really, which means they've just been involved in a couple of bingles throughout this season, which happens when you've got such a big field as well. So fingers crossed nobody wants to add to that, but the real danger zone there is definitely Mark and Bruce with 12 points. They're really got to keep it clean out there tonight, or really for the next few races to stay out of trouble.
My eyes also pick out Matt van der Kraan there in the 5-point category after he was involved in the lap 1, turn 1 collision for the race lead at Barber. He's hopefully going to tread a little more carefully here at Winton, but it's a tough track for overtaking. We might see some elbows out in times and in places, and it being a short and relatively slow circuit. It's also going to be short gear stacks for everyone. Something to keep in mind as well when you think about the fuel consumption, you think about the handling of these cars. It's not going to be down Conrod Straight at Mount Panorama 300 kilometre tall stacks of gears. We're going to have shorter ones on board.
Yep, short and sharp for this track here. You really need that pointy, fast squirt out of a corner at Winton to make sure that you can make it to the next turn with not too many shifts.
And then, of course, how that plays into the standing start as well should help them get away from a standing start. They have plenty of gears to pluck, and the first 2 gears they go for being relatively short to get going as well. So maybe we can get to Zoom wall or something, as we're not too far away from the drivers gritting up and getting underway. 200 k's of racing for V8 Vets Bush Ranger 200 at Winton Motor Raceway. This is a bunch of our drivers, and Brock, first thing I noticed, we're not racing yet, and look at the Dino Dyno.
My goodness, Dean, he's, wow, 118. Winton must be a bit of a bogey track for him or something to be burning that much already, and otherwise the caffeine might just be kicking in and the heart's going with it. Wowee.
Oh, maybe he's had a break-in or something. Or lightning struck next door, or a thunderstorm. Who knows? The heart rate's up. Maybe he's turned into a golden retriever and someone's delivering mail. All the options as we take a look at the full wall of drivers who are racing tonight with their Zoom cameras enabled. So Stacey Boyd in the top left, Dino Dyno, of course, we love to check in on. And there's Jonathan Gallen. Always kind of looks like, you know what, it's the fingerless gloves, baseball cap, microphone combination that makes him look like the scout from TF2. And then Travis Hunt with a slightly different camera angle gives us a bit more of a view behind there. Jeff Thomas, Dean Logsdale, Greg Sharp, Chad Lewis, Michael Stewart. Looks like he's got the fan going there, directing some air at him as he races in VR. David Kirby's making sure he's got all of his ducks aligned. Ken Latta making sure that all of his waterfowl are in a row, and Dan Hall there with the triple monitors, and the bottom centre is Christian Smart. So a great look at everyone's rigs, setups, and all of the sort of shoulder, arm and cardio work that's going to be happening for 200Ks tonight.
Yep, it's going to be hard work out there, and I think we love checking back. I love when we can go side by side with these guys when they're battling out there on track. But I've just heard we can head to the grid, see if we can squeeze it in.
Yeah, qualifying complete. They're locked in for the upcoming race with Ken Latta and Darren Lobb on the front row. Scott Mackay in third means that Jordan Ross, the championship leader, has qualified fourth. And that's where the Blue Synergy Sim Racing Mustang is going to start from, on the second row. Might be the first time this season he's not on pole. We'll double check that, but that's something we're thinking is possible. And certainly when I saw him not on the front row, it's like, well, where's Jordan Ross? The answer is he's starting out of fourth. The next row behind him is going to have Wayne Walker and Dean Logsdale. And then Mark Poynton and Troy Stonestreet are starting 7th and 8th. The top 10 will be completed, Brock, by Michael Stewart and Justin McLean.
Yeah, so then we'll head on to 11th in Tim Nicol and Michael Whiting out of 12th place. 13th will be Stephen Kennedy, and then Damien Cairns out of 14th. Stacey Boyd will be 15th. Christian Smart in 16th. Dean Flavel 17th. Luke Allman in 18th. Greg Sharp in 19th. And rounding out our top 20, John Gallen with the fingerless gloves.
Yeah, there we go, with a big pelican on the side for Pacific Esports Racing. And then in 21st and 22nd, it's Ford Mustangs, Daniel Hall for Evolution Racing Team, and John Latham in 22nd with the Shadow Racing Mustang. Then Chris Miller, 23rd, Travis Hunt, 24th. I wonder he didn't have quite the smile when we went to the Zoom wall. He's starting right in the thick of it at a bit of a bull ring. Bruce Tannock in 25th, David Kirby in 26th, and then Wayne Sanderson, Stephen Grumley on this row. And then it's Jeff Thomas and David Nash. Those JWM SimSport cars, some of those qualifying side of the top 15, top 10, well, they are in the 20s today.
Yeah, and then to round out the rest of the field, we've got Brad Doble in 31st with Stephen Varga in 32nd. Then Robert Crisdale in 33rd and Darren Crosby 34th. Chad Lewis in 35th. Scott McCune 36th. Gary Buckland 37th. Logan Barnett is 38th. And then looks like we round out our field here with none other than Darren Goosey and Jamie McKnight right at the back here as well to round out 40 cars. So a big old field here tonight for what's going to be, I'm sure, an exciting 200 kilometres of racing, with the big story being Jordan Ross not on pole with some of his key contenders ahead of him. So that'll make turn one interesting. And confirming it is the first time he hasn't gotten a pole position this season. So we're in round 6 and this is the first time. So it's all to play for here tonight, David.
Absolutely is. So a 70% fuel limit, a 55 kilometre an hour pit lane speed, and 200 kilometres of racing just over with 67 laps. Do love those hairpins when we look at the gum tree. It's no VIR oak tree. It's something a little more Aussie out here, racing underneath the gum tree.
Wouldn't have it any other way.
Give me a home amongst the gum trees, I say.
I would start singing, but I don't think anyone needs to hear that.
And your rendition would be so perfect as to get us a copyright strike as well, no doubt. You've got the second row of the grid lined up and ready to go, but your front row, Ken Latta and Darren Lobb, in no hurry. Darren Lobb got a great launch off the grid a week ago, but then contact spun him out as he thought he might have had the race lead. He's biding his time before he goes to the grid to start from the front row.
Yep, it's all about these tactics to try and psych out your other competitors, save fuel, you know, whatever you want to think about, but definitely just making them wait, making them sit there, think about their strategy, cool down the cars a little bit. So we're not far off here. Usually once they all grid, we get going pretty quickly here. So we've got about a minute left until we get the lights here. So there's still plenty of time to just sit there and mull things over with the first row still waiting away. But
love that billboard. Probably the only time Fernando Alonso's been to Winton. There's plenty of drivers, who've been to and done the Bathurst 12-hour that have been to Winton for a bit of pre-Bathurst testing. Often they sort of ship the cars over, do a shakedown here at places like here or Sydney Motorsports Park before then loading in at Mount Panorama for the Bathurst 12-hour. So there's a few drivers that have cut laps at Winton that you wouldn't expect. 15 seconds on the countdown. We do have our front row drivers side by side, short gears, 200 kilometres of racing, ready to go. It'll be the locked horns between Ken Latta and Darren Lobb on the front of the grid. Orange numbers for the championship leader starting just behind them in fourth. He'll need to closely and carefully navigate this opening lap as the revs rise, the drivers engage first gear, and the green flag waves for RaceKraft V8 Vets at Winton Motor Raceway. Great launch from Lobb. Latta dropping back a little bit. Jordan Ross just half a car length back behind Scott Mackay. Trying to be careful. Mackay's giving him a little bit of door. Jordan Ross in third might give Mackay a little bit of door back, but that's a perfect launch for Darren Lobb, and Travis Hunt's backwards.
We've had a mammoth in the background here.
Both JWM cars.
5 cars involved, 2 of them being the JWM. This is absolute disaster.
They're last and second last. Travis Hunt and Jeff Thomas, after trying to work their way through turn 2, and there'll be plenty to untangle from that as 5 drivers became tangled through the switchback and the S's of turn 2. Now through the switchbacks of these hairpins underneath the gum tree, things are looking good for Darren Lobb and Ken Latta. Things are also looking pretty good for Jordan Ross, qualified fourth, muscled his way around the outside of turn 1 to the inside of 2, and has taken third place. It's still plenty side by side through the midfield here.
Yeah, as we mentioned earlier, Winton opens up that opportunities. There's a little bit of contact there as well, but the nature of the track keeps giving people the outside and the inside, and we've just gotten turfed around here. Nice save there by the 666, but oh man, that was Chris Miller there getting absolutely turfed off as they were preparing to come through and take a left-hander.
Well, I think it might have been Ben Barguana. It's that crossover, it's the lines converging onto the braking zone there at turn 9. I think there's a redress happening. Oh, maybe it's not. No, maybe it's not a redress. It's a return of serve. Oh, yikes. So this is plenty of action for Chris Miller. A couple of other lap 1 winners. Dan Hall's up 5. Darren Crosby's up 10. Scott McCune's up 10. So for every couple of drivers dropping back, there's a few drivers gaining some spots here as we begin to settle into just a smidge of a rhythm for 67 laps. Compulsory pit stop window should open at the end of this lap if we stay green.
Yeah, so it looks like the compulsory pit window is now open, so you can pit if you want to now that we're heading through lap 2 now. Be interesting to see if anyone got any damage from those incidents, because it didn't look like anyone ended up hard in the wall, and most cars got out of it under their own steam. So no mechanical black flags either. So it looks like everyone's going to continue on, maybe need to get some damage repaired, but as you said, David, they're all just settling in now. Thank goodness. We thought it was going to get a bit crazy for a second there, but no one's going to throw any wild moves here, which is nice to see as they all come round to finish the end of lap 2.
Keeping an eye on that switch back through turns 1 and 2. Plenty of curb that you can ride in these cars, in many types of cars around there. The pressure is on Darren Lobb while Jordan Ross is getting his run up and taking the fastest lap of the race. We look backwards from the race leader at Ken Latta, the pole sitter, back in second.
Yeah, Ken Latta's keeping Lobb very honest here. Hasn't let him run away with this. They've got a nice little gap back to Jordan Ross, but Jordan is eating into that with that fastest lap of the race so far and taking tenths out of it in each corner. So these guys, there's a couple of things to consider. Do they work together and try and pull forward, or does Ken Latta go for glory and try and stream away from this pack if he can get past Lobb, who seems to still be coming up to temp, as drive-through penalty for Chris Miller after that incident with Tannick.
The first penalty coming through. maybe there was no one entirely to blame for turn 2 on lap 1, or maybe it's a far more complicated issue to try to dissect with how many cars were involved and the nature of turn 1 and lap 1 in this type of racing. There's our look at Ken Latta in second. Now you'll know that Jordan Ross is closing up and closing in on the both of them as we go here as well.
Oh, absolutely. And we actually saw just in Ken Latta's Zoom feed there, he was just looking down at what I assume was the relative on that front straight, keeping an eye on exactly where Jordan Ross is, and it'd be just coming down, you know, it was 1.9 seconds, now it's about 1.7, so it's not drastically changing, but you've got to make a decision here if he can find a way through on lob and just put an extra car's distance between himself and Ross, because we know Jordan Ross isn't one to waste time when he gets to the rear bumper of one of his competitors.
The inputs from Ken Latta as he's trying to make a different line. He's trying to go wider on these entries, square it up on the exit, get a run at Darren Lobb. The concertina effect in the short straights here at Winton means every time, even if he gets the corner well, Darren Lobb is just a little earlier to throttle, a little further down the road. But now Lobb runs wide at the left-hander there. And again, Ken Latta's like, I don't have any overlap, but I'm right on this guy's bumper through the slow stuff.
Oh, and it's one of the most annoying things about Winton is exactly that. You're right on his bumper, but there's nowhere to make a move. But then just as you're getting to a point where you can get a bit of draft and try and get closer to him, you come up to the next corner and it's all over Red Rover. So that gap has not changed lap on lap there. That is still about 2.5 tenths between the two of them. I'm surprised Ken Latta can see anything. He's that close to the back of Darren Lobb at the moment.
Oh, you can see the pattern that they use to test digital cameras, I reckon. I know exactly what kind of resolution he's working with. And it's Jordan Ross getting a little bit closer in behind as well. Getting some of the first of these pit stops, just as we were talking about how challenging making overtakes can be here. You think that this is a 2 compulsory pit stop race, exactly how critical optimal strategy will be. In the case of Rob Crisdale, it's to make 1 early. In the case of Chris Miller, it's going to be to serve the penalty as well. You can see the snake working its way through a particular part of the racetrack at the moment. How much free space there is down at turn 1 and turn 2.
Yep, this field definitely hasn't spread out too much at this point, all keeping each other honest with getting in the line, and as we mentioned, finding it hard to overtake. But Latta's just backed off the back of Lobb here a bit, maybe trying to cool off the tyres a bit, because after a little while it does get a bit hot in the car, and and it sounds like we're going to have lap 1 replays incoming, of which the SimSpeed computer is going off on. We've got Stephen Varga here. So that incident had already happened up ahead of him with one of the JWM cars.
Travis Hunt's already gone, and then Varga just ends up the wrong side of it and having to park it. So here's Travis Hunt. Looks like Latham and Miller in front of him potentially. He goes around the outside of that 3 wide. He checks up a little bit. Tanik dives down the... maybe not Tanik, but one of those cars drives down the inside, and that 3 wide puts Hunt around. Thomas makes it all the way to the barrier, so let's have a look at him.
That is a dive bomb and a half.
Might have done his teammate in then.
Yeah, that was just sort of 3 into 2, and it just did not end up going well, unfortunately, there. So Thomas going through the inside that turned to the outside, and Hunt was unfortunately they were all a bit of a victim there to just trying to fit too many cars into one corner. And this is this replay of Miller and Tanik, I believe. Is there more to that story? Because Miller got the penalty out of all of that.
Perhaps Miller comes across a little bit, both spin, and then they get back on the track here. And this is where I said, is there a little bit of, afters? Is there a little more going on? Because, okay, this is all fair here. It must have been from before that, because I don't think Miller's particularly out of line through those right-handers.
No, I'd agree. As here we go, on board now with Tanik. Yeah, I guess in that scenario, where does Tanik go? He's right on the white line on the right side of the circuit there. There is really nowhere he can go unless he drives off-road.
Now, Stephen Grumley's been off the road while we've been dissecting all of these replays. This is also a bit of Brad Doble. Oh, whoa. and that'll be Varga because the JWM cars are right there. So it wasn't Latham that I saw at turn 2 either.
So lap 6 now. We're looking at Stephen Grumley here. Oi! So there was an incident a bit further up the road there between two drivers, and then Grumley's actually ultimately been the worst party there, getting biffed off the track at turn 4.
So we're looking at it again, but further up the road. Here's Dave Kirby having a lob, fair to say.
Yeah, that's an unfortunate one there. Stephen came firing on the scene, taking the normal racing line, and I believe it was Sharp was slow, and it was just, again, you couldn't have predicted that happening there. Really unfortunate for Grumley, though, because ultimately that's led to him losing a heap of positions, being the innocent party in that one.
So looking at who's stopped, Chris Miller served his penalty, but Crisdale, Barnett, Nash, Lewis, Travis Hunt and Jeff Thomas have all taken their first compulsory pit stop, which puts us into the window of quote-unquote the Long Beach situation. The safety car now advantages those drivers who've already made one compulsory pit stop quite significantly. If it came after the critical lap number of about lap 30, be even more so, but an attempt at an undercut and salvaging some of their race from a few of those drivers as Brad Doble and Bruce Tannock also take some service. Jordan Ross is within 1 second of the race lead, just 8/10 for a moment there behind Darren Lodge. Still has Kenneth Ladder breathing down the back of his neck. Wayne Walker you see there in 4th, got a bit of a train himself. Scott Mackay, Dean Logsdale, Troy Stonestreet, Mark Poynton here. Mackay's gone backwards another spot, so I think Walker's gone by Mackay as Mackay also lost a spot to Jordan Ross on the opening lap.
Yeah, and Walker seems to be just creating a bit of distance between himself and Mackay now, so I wonder if here now Mackay's focus turns to Logsdale and Stonestreet behind him, who are already ranging up on him. And we can see here Wayne Walker's already made up 6/10 in one lap here on Mackay, so he's looking eyes forward, try and catch up to the back of Ross in this battle pack up ahead of him, which isn't too far up the road, and leave Mackay behind, I'm sure is the plan.
So a lot of them just holding second gear the whole way through that sequence of hairpins. It's sort of pick up a bit of pace, drop it back, pick up a little bit of pace, keep the car rotating. It'd be a horrible sequence of corners to begin to lose your front tyres because you'd just be waiting on the front to bite for 15, 20 seconds through that sequence there before you could then pick up the power. There's going to be a couple more penalties come through. Greg Sharp being given an unsafe rejoin?
I think so, and that'll be for that incident with Grumley, I would think. Yeah, there it is, confirmed on your screen for you. So yeah, bit of an awkward one for Sharp, who was battling at the time and sort of went off the road and then rejoined into the path of Grumley, and that was all she wrote.
Mills off there. Oh, he skipped the marshal's post there, has he? Oh, I think he's skipping another. Cutting the inside of the left-hand corner, Chris Miller is looking for a spot to rejoin. Is he looking to just stay off the track with the amount of damage he might have? He's already a lap down, isn't he?
He'd just come out of the pits, I think.
Yeah, so he was going to be a lap down to all of these guys, and then he looks like he's had a technical problem. So that's the race leaders he's jumping out of the way of there, because he served his penalty and a pit stop. He was going a lap down to the top 3, and then he's looking at all of these cars he's a lap down to and decides to stay off the racetrack.
I'd go so far as saying a gentlemanly thing to do, but it looks like he's still got issues here. We're still doing rallycross.
Chris Mower, more like it.
Yeah.
He's got another black flag. Because he would have, I think he's gone the wrong way around the gum tree. See, this is cutting the track sufficiently enough. It doesn't matter if you give up the time gained. That's just such a gigantic track cut that it's a drive-through penalty regardless.
Yeah, that's screaming some sort of tech issue or something to me. The way he's just trying to get back to the pits but staying out of the way of everyone.
Jordan Ross might be about to make this race lead pretty interesting, because he's right to the back of Ken Latta, right to the back of Darren Lobb. Wayne Walker not too far behind them, but this is Jordan Ross. Remember, we said he was like 2 seconds behind the race lead. Now he's 7/10, and maybe does he think about undercutting these guys?
I think it's definitely an option, because as we've seen at the moment, it's really difficult to get a pass done. You know, Latta's been stuck behind Lobb, and clearly there's starting to be a bit of a concertina effect where we're all coming together here. So that strategy could be a good one. And we know Jordan's got the pace to manage his tyres. If he got some clean air, it might be the strategy. Hopefully, if he's listening.
So, just been looking at some of these pit stops that we've had, and includes the likes of Logan Barnett, who's the best running driver to have made a stop. Now, he took 25 seconds of service, but the lane transit was 44 seconds, so that makes it look like just a straight drive-through would be about 19 seconds. As far as pit delta, pit losses go, that's not as bad as some other tracks out there. The one thing you do need to factor in, though, is the bizarre pit entry where you basically just run out wide in the penultimate corner, and the opposite of Silverstone have to make a long way to get to the pit lane.
Yeah, well, you practically do a whole other corner, essentially. Sorry, we've just had Jordan Ross go past Ken Latta here. So off screen, he's gotten that done somewhere in the flowing hairpin section. So he's now chasing Lobb. We got the replay here, so let's see how he gets this done. So Latta's looking like he could do a move on Lobb here. Ross is biding his time.
Ooh, first and second both lock up, run wide.
Go under the tree here.
Latta had a fishtail getting back to power from the right-hander as he was offline. So Lobb locked up in the race lead. Latta followed him in, and then as they both cut the corner tight, Jordan Ross has pounced. And with those short gears, Latta got a bit of wheel spin. Jordan Ross had it just perfect and moves to second place.
Yeah, well done. We were waiting for it. We know Ross has got a good bit of pace under him, as he's shown all season. But that was a well-calculated move. He took advantage of the mistakes of others in front of him and just got through nice and cleanly. So now he's got his eyes firmly set on Darren Lobb, and Latta looks like he's not got the gas right now to go back after Ross, but he's not running away too much. Looking back at this other battle pack now, which is Mackay all the way through to Michael Whiting. So 6 cars here battling it out for 5th through to 11th. As these tyres are likely starting to just really lose some of that front bite. So as we continue to see some pit stops happening as well, Mackay's doing well to hold off the likes of Logsdale and Stone Street, but we thought a few laps ago that he might succumb to them, and he's held them off quite well.
Seen Logsdale with the forearm tattoo cam going on. Window cam, you know he's got those lockable sliding bits. That's what I'm learning from this angle. What Wheelie uses his left arm tattoo and his window locks, but he's in the 6th place here, just in behind Scott Mackay. He's had a bit of a wiggle on turn in just there. Of course, with the short gear ratios, you also get a fair bit as you go down through the gears that sort of excites the rear of the car as well.
Yeah, these guys are pushing on. They're not waiting around, even though we've still got a lot of laps left in this one. You know, nearly 50 odd here. It looks like they're pushing these things harder than ever and getting those fishtails, and you can see a bit of understeer creeping in as they go through some of the fast turns. But so far, Nothing. Mackay's still out there, keeping everyone is still just line astern, as Mackay's a little bit wide coming out of the hairpins there, but again, with these short straights, very hard to take advantage of any sort of little mistakes.
Logsdale also got too keen and lit it up, so they're doing, a few of them are doing that out of those tight corners, just lighting up the rear tyres from a really slow start, but with short gear ratios. Elsewhere in this group, this would be Mark Poynton just ahead of Michael Stewart that we're on board with. Yeah, get a look at these gears. So we're shifting into 6th gear at 215 k's an hour, shifting to 6th gear at like 280 k's an hour at Mount Panorama, I reckon.
Yep, and 4th through the first 2 corners as well. Now down in the 3rd here for turn 3, and will he stay in 3rd? No, up to 4th, so, and gliding through 4th here through turn 4, so you're really trying to roll the car nicely through as many turns as you can. So if you can keep up that speed in the higher gear, which the shorter ratios do help with that, you're going to find that speed, as we're seeing Michael Stewart do here, trying his best to, make sure that he stays in the same gear where he can, and this is where we see. Well, we'll see. Does Michael Stewart stay in 2nd? No, he goes up to 3rd through here, so a lot of guys riding 2nd, but he prefers 3rd to flow the car a bit better, I'd imagine.
Yeah, that is interesting. He's not short of a bit of counter steering coming out of those corners. I'm trying to work out what on earth's happening with his boots. Is there a flashing light in the cockpit as he races with VR on? Because I don't think he's wearing light up tap dance shoes.
But wouldn't that be cool? We should get him a set of them at the end of the season for next season.
Pretty sure my sister-in-law bought my niece a pair of light-up shoes the other day. So that's exciting for a 2-year-old.
Very exciting. We've got Wayne Walker in.
From 4th place, Wayne Walker's going to be one of our highest placing drivers to make their first pit stop. With 15 laps completed, there's still 52 to go here for RaceKraft V8 Vets Bush Ranger 200. So it's a little on the early side for someone right up front. Wayne Walker, he's gone for it.
Yeah, we're knocking on the door of that even strategy here, so it is a smidge early, but realistically he can still go through and pit around the same time as the even strategy later in the race. If it can give him track position, if he's got enough pace to kind of jump ahead of those guys ahead of him, then he might actually be in a really good spot here. But that also depends on coming out with a gap that you can work with, and that's the biggest thing with 40 cars on a little bullring track like this, finding a gap to fall back into.
On board with Christian Smart, just in behind Stephen Kennedy at the moment, almost right in behind Stephen Kennedy, let's be honest. Oh, he looks pretty close. Tiny tap of the brake lights there. I reckon he's going to pit, right? No. Okay. Gee, I don't know what's going on here. It almost looked like Christian Smart thought he was going to let him go. You do have a couple of other drivers from up front pitting, including Jordan Ross, Scott Mackay, Dean Logsdale, Dan Hall. Is that a response to Wayne Walker? Because if Wayne Walker was going to undercut anyone, it was going to be guys like Mackay and Ross.
I think so. I'm actually pretty surprised Lob and Ladder haven't come in, because every lap that goes by now, Walker was right on the back of that top 3, and he'll now have the opportunity to jump those guys in 1st and 2nd. Ross is really smart here. He should stop any sort of undercut by Walker. We'll just have to wait and see as they come out of the pits.
So this is textbook with these guys. Wayne Walker's first stop is a lot of fuel. Jordan Ross's first stop is not a lot of fuel. So Jordan Ross has gone for one of the shortest first stops that we've seen, so he's going to have to be very quick through the middle of the race, but I reckon he'll get himself a bit of clean air, and we've seen how quick he is with a bit of clean air. Closed up on Darren Lobb and Ken Ladder very quickly, got past Ken Ladder, but wasn't making much more progress beyond that. This gives him some clean air for the moment.
And you'll never believe it, he's got 5 seconds on Wayne Walker in their pit stop. Jordan Ross filled 5 seconds less than Wayne Walker. Their gap on track, 5 seconds. Jordan Ross underfilled, but he's got that track position now in the battle for the top sort of 3 or 4 in this race.
Dozen other drivers pitting right now. Stone Street leads in a group with Mark Poynton. And who else do I spot in that? Damien Cairns, Tim Nicol, etc. So many drivers are stopping. Remembering that this is one of the races where they started with not a lot of fuel in the cars. They only started with about 50 litres of a fuel tank in these cars. It's over 120. They can actually fill the cars at this stop to a lot more fuel than what they started the race with.
Yeah, you're very right there, which is why I think we're seeing some longer pit stop times as well, because they've obviously got to stack these cars up with fuel to do this middle stint. As speaking of pit stops, Wayne Walker's actually just done the fastest lap of the race after his pit stop, so those new tyres are working a treat for him now that they're up to temperature. But yeah, I'd imagine the next sort of 5 to 10 laps we'll see. Probably even 5 laps, we'll see the rest of the fuel come in, as you said, with that smaller starting tank tonight.
Also got Jordan Ross on the first flying lap since he made his pit stop, so he might be on track to reset that fastest lap of the race again. You've got just the top 13 drivers that haven't pitted. That's about to be 12, I reckon. At some point I'd like to watch one of the cars on pit entry, give everyone an idea of you've got to negotiate almost a hairpin and a chicane through the pit. See, back there, you've got to go around the tyre bundle, slow down to the pit lane speed limit there, go through the chain link fence, and then there's a chicane as well. And remember, if you open a fence to go through it, you got to close it. Leave the gate how you found it.
Just adding extra complexity to tonight's race with the compulsory pit stop. You always got to throw a spanner in the works with these sorts of things. As Jordan Ross returns serve on those fresh tyres on his first full lap and sets the fastest lap of the race. So showing he's got that pace in that fresh air as well. And that was only a couple of tenths faster than what Wayne Walker had managed on his first flyer. As we're on board now with Wayne Sanderson, looking back at Darren Goosey, these guys are fighting it out as they're coming towards their pit stop, certainly not leaving anything out there. As we know, track position is everything here at Winton, so if you can just sneak by before a pit stop, that means the world. But so far, just as Darren looks close in the close stuff, Wayne fires away as we get to the straights.
A strategy graphic had the first stint, the longest you could go, as being about 20 laps. Well, just before we started lap 20, the race leader, Darren Lobb, is in. Ken Ladder's followed him. Stephen Kennedy's followed him. Darren Crosby will go one longer, and here we're seeing Wayne Sanderson negotiate the pit entry. See, this is the bit where your pit stop loses you a bit of time. Such a tight, slow corner through the chain link gate. It's a bit autocross, I'll be honest.
Oh, it's certainly, you've basically got to do your own little go-kart entry into the pits there with that tight turn and that chicane as well. It's they don't make it too easy, but it does add an extra layer of fun to your pit entry instead of just a straight and break. As Darren Crosby's still out there leading the field at the moment.
I'll point out the top four, 3 of the top 4 are Darren's.
That's got to win some type of award. I don't think we've ever seen that before.
Yeah, Darren, Jordan, and Darren. But we still need Crosby and Goosey to pit. They're the only 2 drivers that haven't yet. And then Jordan Ross will go into the race lead. He has significantly undercut Darren Lobb. Only 2 seconds of it. But only 1.5 seconds of it is fuel. The rest of the time is that tyre undercut that looks so powerful.
Yeah, extremely powerful. I mean, we saw Ross and Walker both setting their fastest laps of the race on their first full lap, so the cars weren't even up to full temperature there, and those times were 0.5 seconds to 1 second faster than the fastest laps from the first stint. So it's certainly very powerful, and Ross has got himself in the box seat here with the gap he's got back to Lobb and Walker. That fuel discrepancy between himself and his competitors won't matter at this rate with the gaps they've got. As Darren Crosby comes in now as well. So I think with Darren Goosey as well, that'll cleanse our field of pit stops ready to go for this second stint here.
Yeah, Will gives Jordan Ross the lead, and that's the graphic I kind of wanted to talk about there. 4.9 seconds that he leads, but he's only owing 2 more seconds of fuel, so he's worked himself on pace, on pit in and pit out laps and everything what's effectively a 3-second race lead, and he's got clean air now to keep pushing on, which is, I think, dangerous. I don't think you're going to see Jordan Ross again if you give him that kind of prerogative and clean air.
No, I completely agree, mate. I think this is exactly what Ross needed to stretch his legs. Obviously, qualifying didn't go as well as what he would have hoped, but now it's all in his control. This is just how he likes it, and we've seen him do it time and time again. Manage the tyres, keep up with the fast times. We say it week in and week out, can anyone stop Jordan Ross? And tonight we're going to have to see something special from the likes of Lob, Walker or Ladder to make that happen.
It needed someone to sacrifice their own strategy, take a short fill and park in front of Jordan Ross, because he is unleashed. It's like how in F1 we just need one driver to not yield when Max Verstappen tries to push him off, and then things will change. It won't go well for that one guy, like it wouldn't go well for the one person who sacrificed their own strategy here, but it'd help everyone else.
Look, you're not wrong there. You would have been doing the early stops and really put a spanner in the works, but that's all right. Hopefully, as this is obviously the quieter part of the race in a sense, where everyone's on different strategies, different fuel levels. We've all pitted on different laps, so it'll all just kind of go along here. We've still got a couple of nice battle packs as we're seeing here with Justin McLean and Damien Cairns, but it'll really come to fruition once those fuel levels all equal out at the end of this stint and we have that sprint to the finish. But lap 22 of 67 here, still a very long way to go in this Bush Ranger 200 as McLean looks to keep that gap ahead of Damien Cairns, who's made up 2 positions in this race so far.
This is looking really good for Wayne Walker. So on your screen right now is the gaps and the pit stop times. So in the pit stop time, Wayne Walker's got 3 more seconds of fuel than Darren Lobb, but he's within 3 seconds of Darren Lobb. So I think Lobb might have had a slow pit entry or something. Maybe he hasn't negotiated the turn, the tyres, the gate and the chicane as well. Because not only has Jordan Ross seriously, got him and got to the lead, I reckon on strategy, Wayne Walker has Darren Lobb covered at the moment. Look at that. Look at the pit box times. Walker's taken more fuel that will save him in the second stop, and he's only 2.8 behind.
Yeah, so Walker as well did have those extra laps out on track because Lobb and Ladder stayed out quite a bit longer than what after Walker pitted. So I reckon we're seeing definitely a bit of that pace differential come into it, but now the game will be keep within those few seconds that we're seeing in the pit box that Walker has over Lobb, and he might just be able to jump him, but that's gonna make things interesting because he's only just got that gap at the moment, so those guys are going to be neck and neck after that pit stop unfolds, and Ladder's still well and truly within this, right behind Walker, only about a second behind him as well.
Winton and Stone Street, we're getting pretty close in the background here. We go to it. Took about the same amount of fuel, pitted on the same lap. Winton is just ahead of Stone Street at the moment. Thirstine Logsdale just behind them. And then Michael Stewart. And I kind of had eyes on Scott Mackay because he's got one of the longest first stops of everyone. So if he can maintain a bit of pace in the middle stint here, he's also, like Wayne Walker, going to gain some back at the second round of stops. And then the biggest fuel drops first time around, Justin McLean and Michael Whiting, they've near brimmed those cars. What strategy are they aiming for? Because we still think of this as a pretty track position critical racetrack. We're not seeing passes come easily. If you're stuck behind someone, you can be quite a bit faster. It'll take you a few laps to get around, if you can at all.
Yeah, absolutely. So these guys with fresh air at the moment will be thanking their lucky stars because they are in the box seat to put in some really strong laps at the moment. We're just looking at Michael Whiting as well, who's also had a long stop there. So there are a few guys down the order. Well, what a gaggle here! My goodness. Okay, now we're talking mid-race battles. This is intense here. So this is the battle for 5th. The battle for 17th. Apologies. Logan Barnett in 17th, all the way back to David Nash in 23rd. And Dean Flavel is wanting to have a look of it as they come through turn 5 and 6 now. Oh, it is poking the nose in there. He wants something of it. Not going to have any coming under the tree here, but my goodness, these guys are looking racy.
Fair gaggle here from Logan Barnett in 17th to Scott McCune in 29th. So that's 12 or 13 drivers in this gap. Logan Barnett's up the front of it. Did not qualify well, if he even qualified at all. But he's plus 21 positions at the moment. Stopped quite early. Stopped very early. I reckon Barnett's only just going to get to the critical lap window as well at about 30 to go, which is still 12 laps away. Having pitted on lap 5, 19 laps ago, he's done that undercut relatively well, given himself the clean air that he needed, got ahead of this gaggle, from which I think he has just enough pace to keep them all behind. But he's going to probably be one of the first drivers looking at the critical lap number and stopping just about at that halfway.
Yeah, completely agree there. Like, you know, his laps are 19. His tyres are 19 laps old, whereas Flavel and Crosby are both on 5 and 4 lap old tyres. So they got a lot of pace to burn. But it is the age-old question at Winton here. How do I get by? So right now, Barnett's actually doing a great job just keeping his field at bay, because he will be feeling average on those tyres, and he still has a fair way to go to make this thing happen. But he's doing a brilliant job just placing the car where it needs to be, using the tyres when he needs to make them last.
Can't get over the fact that his first name is a river in Queensland and his last name is a river in WA.
Do you reckon his parents were thinking of that when they named him?
Well, I don't think they had a whole lot of choice in the surname if they've just gone hereditary on that one. But then, you know, if that's the surname, you always open up the opportunity to do something creative to match. I don't know. Probably not. Fair enough name, Logan.
I think Logan might need to have a deep and meaningful with his parents tonight about that, but we'll leave that to him afterwards. We've just got an estimated fuel range for Logan Barnett here as well, so lap 44. So he's definitely got the goods in the tank to get to the critical lap number here. The question is going to be the tyres, whether they have the goods to get there and still keep defending as he is with Dean Flavel behind there, who is monstering him at the moment, really trying to show the nose wherever he can.
Because we think the critical lap number is about 10 laps away at lap 36 or so, and if you make second stop at that point, you're good to go. So that's not far away from opening up. Looking at Wayne Walker now, this is something that could hinder Walker a little bit. Darren Lobb's gotten further ahead, and Ken Latta behind has gotten just a little bit closer.
Yeah, and just on Lobb, he is putting in some pretty good laps at the moment. His best lap is on par with Ross, and his last lap, he's actually brought that gap down by about half a second in the last few laps. So
Lobb needs to get within about 1.5 seconds, doesn't he, based on the previous lap pit stops?
That's correct. So he's pushing on at the moment, and he's actually closing that gap. So whether that's a bit of management from Ross or whether this is Lobb has this genuine pace, but I wouldn't count this out just yet. We're seeing some pretty good driving from Darren Lobb here. And then, of course, Walker and Latta behind. Latta doing exactly what he did in that first stint and hugging the back of the car in front of him. We go back to 5th place now with Mark Poynton, Troy Stonestreet and Dean Logsdale picking up where they left off before the pit stops, just in this slightly reduced battle pack.
Let's have a look through the field as we're approaching the halfway point of 100 kilometres done, 100 kilometres to go. RaceKraft V8 Vets Bush Ranger 200 at Winton Motor Raceway. Now the drivers that were last and second last on the first lap, let's have a look at how things are going for Travis Hunt. It's eyes forward because there's a bit happening. And this is something that he'd like to work his way through, but it's not going to be easy. 26th place at the moment for Travis Hunt. First stop was very early, very similar to the Logan Barnett strategy.
And remembering Travis was involved in that incident on lap 1, so obviously came in, got whatever damage repaired that he might have had, and has actually made a pretty good recovery here, up in the 26th, and trying to find any way he can around, albeit left, right, up, down, nearly into the back of the car in front, but keeping it mostly clean.
Yeah, it's Christian Smart in front of him that tried to cover turn 3, so Travis Hunt looked around the outside and threw it in there just a little bit too deep. Stephen Kennedy in 27th, just behind him, and then his teammate Jeff Thomas in 28th. This is the head of the train that Travis Hunt is in the middle of, and it's still Logan Barnett with this would be good reason for 120 or so on the Dino Dyno. Before we put it up, what's your guess for the Dyno number? I'm saying low 120s.
I'm going to go with 111.
Okay, drum roll please. Let's have a look at Dino Dyno running 18th place, low 120s.
Yeah,
That's
you're
where
all
he
over
was
it, David.
Pre-race though, so I think he as a man who knows how to warm up.
I think Dean's put the serious face on tonight, because that heart rate is the highest we've seen all season. He's taken this one very seriously, and probably just a smidge of frustration creeping in as he's chasing Logan Barnett.
It's constant work around here, isn't it? You've got these sort of tight corners where you're spending a lot of time, sort of 90 degrees of steering lock on, rather than, just a little bit. You've got a bit of force feedback going. You're stretching against it. This whole section here, the steering's loaded all the way through. Plus the tension, the pack that he's in.
There's definitely that mental side to it as well, not just like the pack he's in, of course that takes an effect, but when you're coming through these sections and you're worrying about your tyres and how much throttle do you use, how much is too much, like...
Driver behind, Nash around.
Driver behind.
And one of the Pelicans there. So we've had it coming together with the concertina effect. David Nash and Jonathan Gallen both off the road. We've seen how much effort it takes to not run up the rear bumper of the guy in front of you when you're running through that section, and you slow down to a crawl through those slow apexes. I think in the train, it's come a little undone there.
Got a replay coming up shortly to show us what happened. It is very easy to kind of get caught out there, as now we're going to have a look here at Jonathan Gallen. He kind of goes for the inside there. Just accelerates a little early, and while car in front is unloaded, he just tips him around. It's the lightest of contact. That's all it takes though through there. So a very lazy sort of spin, but easy to do.
Yeah, thought that the guy in front of him was going to run wider than ended up happening in that particular group. Just getting towards the critical lap number right now. We've calculated it sort of somewhere in this 30 to 35 range. Perhaps it's now, but it depends on exactly how the fuel burn works out. It's cool air temperatures, cool track, all of that usually leads to quite a lot of time on throttle. You get a hot, sticky track and you sort of need to roll out of the throttle 10 meters earlier, and on corner exit you're just rolling into the throttle later, more slowly, more gently. Other dramas out on the track. This is Dino. This is Greg Sharp. They both got the copper orange strips.
Yeah, poor Greg is he's not had a great night tonight. He was on the buzzer to race control earlier, talking about that penalty that he ended up serving for the unsafe rejoin, which was a bit of an awkward one. So back in 38th now. We do have him on the Zoom wall here in VR and on the rig. So in his singlet as well, which for some supercar racing is probably the appropriate thing to be wearing, as it is hot and heavy work out there, as we were talking about.
Yeah, tough work for Greg Sharp. Twice through the lane, once to really load the fuel on, and the other time to the penalty that he got. There was a bit happening there, so I was kind of surprised by that penalty with everything else that was going on. Back with Jeff Thomas. Plenty of info going on for him because he's got overlays on his main monitor and then timing and other fuel info up on his top monitor. So not only he doesn't have the iRacing relative open, he's got an overlay of a different kind, giving him the relatives. So then he's got pit stop settings in the bottom left.
Looks similar to that box. Yep. Or is it fuel? He's got his timing on the left there as well, his iRacing timing, telling him how well he's going. As Jonathan Gallen has just gotten a drive-through penalty for that contact with Nash as well, which is a pretty clear-cut one. I think we can all agree there. But I got to appreciate a man who likes a lot of data, so he knows what's going on at all times with him and everyone else in the race. You got to appreciate that. Cool setup with the full screen on top there too.
Yeah, so we're dissecting exactly what Jeff Thomas is using. On his main monitor, directly in front of him, to the lower right and the upper right are some custom overlays. So the lower right looks like relative, upper right looks like standings outright, and then upper right is fuel calculation, okay. But underneath his pedal inputs, gear and steering position, he's got open the iRacing fuel box to make adjustments to how much fuel he's going to take when his second pit stop comes along.
So he's also got standings up. He's got standings on the top screen there, but he's got his normal vertical standings and then his bottom horizontal rolling bar standings. So you'd almost think in a previous life he was a broadcaster with the amount of overlays he uses and where he puts them. That's an impressive setup, and still plenty of area to see your car and what you're doing.
And the red motorbike that's his desktop background is also his Discord profile icon as well.
We can safely say he likes that red motorbike.
I think he does. Still tucked in behind for the moment. Unable to make too much progress on Christian Smart. Have we had anyone pit critical lap number going by? No, I don't think anyone is stopped and good to go home yet. It's a bit of a surprise to me with how powerful that tyre undercut initially looked. You'd be thinking, I'll give it a go, and then if there's a safety car, I might be in a good position.
And with track position being king as well here, you know, like I think that's surprising to me is a couple of these people who did that early stop, stopping again, getting some clear air and seeing if they can continue to progress up with those fresh tyres, knowing they can kind of park the field a little bit. Because we can clearly see, you know, with the likes of Logan Barnett, for example, he's doing a pretty good job keeping most people behind him. Not everyone, but most people, and keeping in that top 20, even on those 28 lap old tyres at the moment.
Can I get a check? How many kilos are Stacey Boyd's dumbbells and kettlebells? He's got a set of kettlebells there. Are we doing 5, 10, 20?
They're pretty sizable, I reckon. I reckon Stacey races with some pretty big force feedback there.
They're black. That means that they're heavy. No one paints 2 kilogram kettlebells black.
That's true.
They're always like pink or baby blue. No, seriously, go to Kmart. Everything that's like 2 kilos is like pink or baby blue.
When you get to the 10 or 15 kilos, that's when it's black. It's like, we're serious now. There's no fun to be had here.
Yeah, this isn't, you know, Tuesday morning before knitting class type weights. This is type weights. We're getting some of our first pit callers negotiating the sequence of the pit entry. So it is Rob Crisdale and Jeff Thomas. They're the first drivers to make their second stop after the critical lap number.
and who are both very early pitters. So we're talking lap 4 and lap 5 earlier in the race they came in. So coming off of near on 30 lap old tyres to go into another set that will have to scream at them for another 30 odd laps to get them to the end, but they will make it, having met that critical lap number now. And it looks like the rest of the field has gone through there. As now we're on board with Daniel Hall, looking back at Justin McLean. As again, we're seeing just when you want to make the overtake, you're just not quite close enough to get it done, and you've just got to bide your time. And I don't think we've seen too many genuine overtakes on track at this race. It's just been, they get close, they just can't get that overlap, as McLean is looking and he's trying and he's doing different lines, which we've seen a bit of as well, but no luck so far. Track position has been king tonight.
There's been a couple, but you're sort of looking, fishing for a mistake off of your rivals, perhaps looking for them to ride some of those curbs poorly. Now going on board with Daniel Hall in 10th. Yeah, 26 seconds on his first stop, but he's sandwiched between Scott Mackay and Justin McLean, who both took sort of 31, 32 seconds of fuel. So they'll jump in when the second stop comes for this group of drivers. And not quite as much data going on for Daniel Hall, but that is still a custom overlay, I reckon, of the relative box, and he's got your and my favourite timing on his top monitor.
Yep, can't judge anyone with JRT. What an excellent platform there, and a nice big font on a big screen above him, so he can have a look and find exactly what he needs up there. I think I've always said, I like this setup with Daniel Hall with the wheels on the wall. He's even got JRT on his dash in front of his wheel and on the screen up the top there. So very much a man dedicated to that platform, with great 3-screen setup there as well. So always love seeing this one, as we are all sim racing nerds and love it. But he seems to be driving it fairly well, fairly smoothly. We've seen a couple of people hanging it out and everything, and he just seems to be biding his time. He's top 10, up 11 at the moment, in a pretty good position fuel-wise, as you were saying, even with those guys around him who have taken a bit more. So see how he goes as we get around to this next round of pit stops. Probably in the next, what do you reckon, 10 or so laps, we'll see a bit more of the fuel coming in.
Possibly. Also note that he's got some lights somewhere connected to the API repeating the shift indicators, so that was what was glowing on his wall. It just matches the shift indicators on the dash of the car. He'll be looking to try to stay inside of the top 10, but I reckon it'll be tough for Dan Hall. Down here, Chad Lewis between Luke Orman and Travis Hunt.
Yep, Travis Hunt continuing that push up through the field after a pretty gnarly start to this one, up in 21st now, which is up 3 on where he started. So making a good effort there and continuing to put pressure on Chad Lewis here. Chad Lewis, who is up 15 as well, so good effort so far in this one. Travis looking very locked in as well. Usually we do see a smile on his face, or a coffee in hand, or a piece of gum, I believe. But he's locked in. He knows he's got to make up some positions, and he's doing just that tonight.
Oh, this is the pit entry from the driver's perspective for Travis Hunt, so he peels off. Got to slow it wall down to get around those tyres. Then aim for this here. Slow it down to 55 k's an hour, negotiating this, and then looking for where his pit stall is going to be. Yeah, I thought it was going to be pretty early in the lane based on where he qualified, and there being 30 pit stalls. He's going to be about 25 from the pit exit end.
Yep, so nice and easy to get into it. A nice long trundle out the other end though.
Wayne Walker a little bit wide there, as Jordan Ross is going to pit from the race lead. Whole flurry of activity on pit lane now as we cross to 29 laps to go. Ken Latter's had a good bit of pace, and this last lap from Wayne Walker was all over the shop at a 1:23 flat. Actually, no, that's not incredibly off pace for him. but he has had Latta close him in. Latta's on a very similar strategy. So these two could still be close to Darren Lobb, but there was a time they were only 3 seconds behind Darren Lobb. Now it's 5, approaching the pit stop window. Jordan Ross's stop is done. He's rolling. Pit exit is a challenge at this track. And this is where the pit exit's going to be for Jordan Ross. Ooh, just ahead of Darren Crosby for the moment.
Yeah, good spot for him to drop in there. Otherwise, he certainly would have lost a bit of that advantage by getting onto new tyres a bit earlier, which we've talked about all night long. He's at least got a little bit of free air here before I think he's going to come across Dean Flavel up ahead of him, if I'm not mistaken. So, but he does have some time here to get those tyres up to temperature and hope that a few more people pit in front of him. But just about everyone else has stayed out. David Kirby has come in. Walker and Latta are both in. Okay.
Yeah, now I don't think Jordan Ross needs to worry about Wayne Walker or Ken Latta, but Darren Lobb does. A good 1 or 2 lap undercut from Wayne Walker, and Darren Lobb could be in trouble for second place, could be in trouble for even standing on the podium full stop. First time around through the pit lane, we saw exactly how powerful a 2 or 3 lap tyre undercut in some clean air can be. Really gives you sort of, half a second or more per lap on those new tyres for those couple of laps before you heat cycle them, heat saturate them, and the grip begins to go away from you somewhat. Jordan Ross, surely that kind of pace and grip advantage, he's going to hot knife his way through a bit of the traffic here, but it's worse than he'd want it to be.
Yeah, ideally you just have clear track ahead of you, and none of these
jumped. Ken Latta's jumped Wayne Walker.
And here you go, Ken Latta's jumped Wayne Walker, so he couldn't get it done on the track, as Winton is a hard overtaking track, but in the pits he's managed to pip him there, which is an excellent job. So sets up an exciting end to this one here, but there's certainly traffic they're all coming out into and having to manage, which is a little bit different to that first end of that first stint where there was a lot of fresh air for them, as Lobb is now in the pit, our race leader is in.
Yeah, this is for the podium. This is Darren Lobb versus Ken Latta versus Wayne Walker, I reckon. Lobb's not going to give them 2 or 3 laps of undercut on him. He could have been in trouble if those other two, particularly Ken Latta, really got 2 or 3 laps of eating away at his time advantage. Lobb reacts quickly. There he is, a bit of air conditioning ducting on the roof. He's got the second pit stall, so he's right near the pit exit end by virtue of his qualifying. Fuel's going and going and going for Lobb. Yeah, with a quick enough first stop, he's got a really long second stop going on here.
There goes Ross.
Oh, it's going to be close. Ken Latta's going to be behind, but Darren Lobb's only just going to be ahead as that's the right line through 1 and 2 for Latta. If there's a little struggle on the cold tyres for a lap or for a corner or 2, Ken Latta needs to strike now.
That's exactly it, and you can see Latta is driving things, braking as late as he can to try and get this car in a position to get past Lobb. We know Lobb's got a good bit of pace here, so this is going to be Latta's only opportunity, and Lobb's gone a little bit wide there. He obviously can't push this thing as hard on cold tyres. Latta's not going to... You can see how much more control he's got there. He's trying to get under him. Not going to happen as they go under the tree here. Again, Latta's experimenting with different lines to try and give him that extra edge, but it's not going to happen. Lobb here, the tyres will just be starting to come up now and he have a little bit more control. Last opportunity will be in these next couple of corners in the braking zone, but I don't know if Latta's close enough.
Perhaps a bit of traffic presents an opportunity, but yeah, by this point, Darren Lobb survived. And the tyres are going to be oh so grippy and brand new for him. A few other drivers making pit stops right now, as the right-hand side of your screen will gladly tell you. But I think we've had our podium make their final stops already. Jordan Ross from Darren Lobb, from Ken Latta, Wayne Walker back in what's going to become net 4th at the moment. And then there's a few drivers that took big gulps of fuel at the first stop. They're going to have some pretty quick second stops, and they might surprise us where they pop back up again. Drivers like Scott Mackay, for example.
Yeah, absolutely, and we're starting to see a lot more drivers come in and process as we now get to that point where tanks are starting to run empty, and also tyres are starting to get a little bit old and out of breath. So, yeah, you mentioned that traffic earlier. Here's an example of it. Lob is being held up here at the moment, and Ladder needs to try and take advantage while he can here. You won't have this for too much longer, where you've got another car, in a sense, holding up Lob from getting past.
Yeah, Darren Crosby. Oh, Lob looks down the inside, nearly makes a little bit of contact there, opens it up. So they escort Darren Crosby out. Ken Ladder also steps on through, but Darren Lob was very, very robust with that. Scott Mackay is nowhere near where I would expect after his second stop.
Yeah, interesting. He's way down the order, and he did a 27.6 second stop.
He was battling for a podium in the first stint, and now he's 27 seconds behind race leader Jordan Ross. Still need Michael Stewart to pit and cleanse the field, etc. But yeah, and there's been a bit of other drama going on elsewhere. Travis Hunt's going slowly.
A redress with Lewis. So obviously something's happened there.
He's done that. Chad Lewis is in front of him now.
Yeah, so obviously there's been some sort of contact or something like that, and Hunt has had to let him through. It just has not been the night for Mr. Travis Hunt. He's had a difficult one as someone goes shooting off into the pit lane there to complete their stop. As we got the replay now of that contact between Hunt and Lewis. Right on him, little bump there, nothing wrong with that. Coming through now into that. Oh, Lewis got a lot of curb there. Hunt's down the inside, and it's just... Yeah, big old lean there. And gets that done. Okay, didn't spin him or anything like that, but clearly got into him and moved him out of the way.
Yeah, wherever you measure it, like, oh, you've got to have your nose past the B pillar, you've got to have your nose to their mirror, whatever. He was none of those things. But you did see how sort of out of shape Lewis was in front of him, got a bad ride over the curb, was certainly a little slow, and you don't blame Travis Hunt for thinking, well, if he's a little bit wide here and I'm down the inside, it could be game on.
That's it, and you honestly can't blame him for going for a gap there, and redress fixed it all in the end as well. So that's the main thing, and that's all well and good. But you never want the guys out there to not go for a good gap if they see it, and that's what you want to see, good racing. So anyway, now we've got David Kirby here, duking it out for 32nd with Chad Lewis now. Speak of the devil, as they now come across the line to start their lap 44.
They gain a spot as Stephen Varga is in the pit lane, so that's why Kirby jumped up to 31st. Chad Lewis in 32nd. Oh, a bit out of shape for Kirby. If I had $1 for every driver on Zoom with a forearm tattoo, I think I'm on $3 or $4.
It's not bad. It'll get you a couple of chups these days.
Yeah, not going to get me too much, but it'll get me something. So there's Kirby on the left and Chad Lewis on the right. No gloves for Lewis, but Kirby's got no sleeves, but gloves galore.
Yeah, I'm definitely a glove man myself these days. I never used to be, but they're a bit easy to use, but each to their own with these things, as we always have with sim racing. Oh, sorry, just watching there. Chad Lewis is very different lines there for Kirby and Lewis, and Kirby with a shake of the head, that mistake he made, but luckily Lewis couldn't do anything with it. But Kirby looks to be struggling a little bit out there. He's the lines are a little bit off. He's understeering a bit, so the car is not happy.
You've got to be so precise positioning the car to the apex around here, because it is lots of slow corners, lots of kind of tight corners. And so you get a little bit wide, you get out of shape there. You're putting the power on with these really short gears, and Kirby's struggling with it at the moment. Kirby stopped 6 laps ago. Chad Lewis stopped 4 laps ago. So these guys have already made their second stops. They're racing this one out to the end with the 22 laps still to go. Feeling that Lewis has just a little bit more speed. He's not going to try to do to Kirby what Travis Hunt did to him, is he?
It almost looked like it for a second there, but this has actually brought Hunt into this battle all over again. So, yeah, this is a 3-car battle here for 27th at the moment with Kirby, Lewis and Hunt line astern. But now Lewis can't look ahead all the time because Hunt is trying to look, and he's fishing for those mistakes as we talked about earlier. He's trying to force a mistake to get by again, but Lewis is having none of it, and Kirby's managed to get some pressure off him. Find his footing again, and looks to be driving the car a little bit better now.
The last drivers that still owe us a pit stop are in the lane right now. Scott Mackay and Wayne Sanderson. The only other that we're hanging on for, I think, is John Gallen at the moment. So we're almost all set for the run to the checkered flag here. Been a little while since we had a safety car in RaceKraft V8 Vets, now I think about it. Didn't get one at Barber, haven't had one at Winton. Need to pencil in Long Beach or something again to throw that wrench in the strategy gears.
These guys just race too cleanly. And I've been very impressed commentating this series over the last few months. They battle hard out there, but often doesn't result in big incidents for the most part that take people out of races. It's very cool to see. As you were very right, Jonathan Gallen is the last car yet to complete his 2 compulsory pit stops, so will undoubtedly fall back from 18th down the field once he elects to take that.
Could be now the way he's approaching the penultimate corner. No, just a difference in braking zones, difference in braking points between himself and Stephen Kennedy.
As we've still got a couple of nice little gaggles here. This is the battle for 24th with Robert Crisdale at the front of it with Scott McCune right behind, and then our favourite trio, Kirby, Lewis and Hunt, just right in behind them. So they're getting a lot of time on the limelight tonight. Looking for like a move. No, Crisdale defended at the last moment there, and McCune wasn't going to go for it. Smart move there, and they'll go line astern. But Scott is looking racy here, and he wants to get a wriggle on here against Robert Crisdale.
Here we go. Hello. It's like when you're at the park and a dog runs up to sniff you. That's what it looked like.
Yeah, well, when you can't see his nose anymore, I think we can judge that he's quite close to the back of Crisdale.
Yeah, going to get an idea of what the minimum apex speeds are there. Crisdale's running a bit wide through the left-hander, but surely just parking yourself on the inside's the place to be. Scott McCune thinks they make no progress there. Just got to keep some semblance of pressure on him through the final corner, but I think Crisdale's just warded it off. Peak straight line speeds I'm seeing are about 228 kilometers an hour here, so that's sort of the speed trap speeds. Play that against at Montreal, where it's like 280. So this is quite a tight and technical track without the length of straights that you get from some other tracks that are famous and favourites of these cars.
And that's where you do lose some of your overtaking opportunities. There's obviously the long straights and the high gearing give you a really good opportunity to draft up to the back of some of these cars. So here it's a lot more about taking advantage of mistakes, as we have seen, and positioning your car just right when that mistake happens. So, as I said earlier, the beauty of this is that we haven't seen any huge incidents where people have been completely taken out, even after a mistake, and someone's gone for an opportunistic dive, which is great to see. And now we're looking at the battle for 19th with Logan Barnett. So looking at him again here, he's on 11 lap old tyres. with, again, guys behind him in Luke Allman, Dean Flavel and Darren Crosby, all on younger tyres, but that track position, 19 up at 19 positions, Logan Barnett, and looking to hold on to it. But Dean has passed him earlier in the race as well, Dean Flavel, so he's on a charge and not looking to give up just yet as he's down 4 from his starting position.
Going to take another look at the Dino Dyno, but first we'll get our guesses at where I think we're at. And I'm going 115.
I'm going to go 119.
And the answer on the prop is right. Is David Haynes knows I'm a bit closer, but he's managed to settle it just a little bit. I thought that would happen after the second pit stop. I don't think you can maintain 125 all race long. And at this point, you know, this is who you're racing, this is your lot. So the heart rates come down just a little bit.
I think I need to take the David Haynes class of heart rates after this one, because you've been just about bang on, mate, with your predictions. So you're very right. I guess, as you said, he's now... The pit stops are done. He's in it. He knows what he's up against. But now we're looking at the battle for fifth, who these guys have been going at it all race. This battle for fifth has not stopped, with Logsdale, Stone Street and Stewart now in it. And Logsdale and Stone Street have been attached at the bumper from pretty much the first few laps. So this will be an interesting one, because I don't know about you, Dave, when I get a top 5, I feel pretty chuffed. So these guys I know are going to want to sneak up and get those extra championship points, get that statistic of a top 5. But it's if they can do it. You know, we've only got sort of 17 and a half laps left here. It's not that long to go around this tight track.
Logsdale locked it up a little bit, had a wiggle, but again, Troy Stone Street going nowhere. I had a look at some of the speeds previously, and they were doing about 55 k's an hour at the apex of that right-hander there. Oh, Stewart manages to roll about 60 k's. So he's rolling a bit more speed than some of the others that I saw. Up to 180 and then slowing it down again. Different view than we're used to of Michael Stewart as well. I'm going to guess that Winton is not on his poster the greatest racing tracks in the world. I'm trying to picture Winton nestled in between Circuit Spa-Francorchamps and Watkins Glen International, and I'm not quite seeing how it fits snugly between Mount Panorama, Bathurst and Albert Park.
Well, look, unfortunately, David, I do have to agree with you. As someone who's visited the track, albeit a few years ago, it is a little bit of a dust bowl at times, and certainly not high up on the ranking of worldwide phenomenon tracks. But still, a nice little track to have some fun around, as we've seen tonight, and certainly popular at the club and state level for some racing in cars with a little amount of grip and downforce, but guys who love to race hard.
Like Formula V's amazing around here.
Absolutely. Well, low downforce and tyres that don't want to hang on, sliding, holding on to it, and through these, coming through these sections here where you're lacking grip, you've got to try and hold on to the hairpins. It's amazing you can keep them going. But here we go. We're looking at Jordan Ross, Darren Lobb here. Look, Darren Lobb he keeps taking a bit of time out of Jordan Ross, and then Jordan Ross takes it back. So I really think this is just a management job from Ross, which has been, he's done a great job getting to the front, and now he's just managing this like we always see. But we usually don't see guys kind of just sneaking up on him like Lobb has done, and that's good to see. We did say this season people would have to come to Ross and fight him, and we're seeing that happen. The guys are lifting their game to try and beat this phenom of Jordan Ross.
3 kilometre lap, and you're starting to see some cars go lap down, and therefore Ross and Lobb and Latter encountering a bit of traffic as they go. How about this for a bit? Now, good news, Travis Hunt got past Chad Lewis without having to hit him, but now he's trying to line up the next, and this is causing an absolute logjam. Travis Hunt in behind David Kirby, side by side in a multitude of places. It's let Jeff Thomas and Darren Goosey get close, and it's spun Travis Hunt around.
What the heck happened there? He must have gotten the grass on exit. That was, he did well not to take anyone else out there. My goodness.
I can lip read, he's saying, oh bother, his teammate Jeff Thomas is off at the next corner. These two guys, twins, separated at birth, obviously, Hunt and Thomas, because when they're both off, they're both off.
Yeah, it has not been the ideal night for JWN Sim Sport. They have just, no matter when we come to the camera on them, they are struggling. So we've got a replay here back on lap 45 of Gary Buckland. So we will get to the Travis Hunt incident, but he's coming out of the... Okay, so we're just looking here
Top
at
four
the
cars went past there, and he just wasn't going to merge onto track in between the battle for first and second lap down. But Travis Hunt, right in behind Kirby, gets a wiggle on, gets another wiggle on, and maybe on the exit of the curb, he does get a bit of the dust. And he's just done it himself. So here he is. You can't see where the curb ends, right, from the driver's position. So he has a wiggle, he's on the curb, and then he's on the dust, and what?
That barely looks like he's touched the dust. That's, he was, yeah, that's a very weird one. It looks like he's just gassed it up and had a bit of, as silly as it sounds, a tank slapper. Well, look, here we go from above. This will tell us. Yeah, so he's just gotten loose there, which is... So there was a bit of contact for Jeff Thomas into the back of Chad Lewis, I believe it was there, trying to avoid that contact.
And he cops another tap into turn one, and then Jeff Thomas, he also puts his left-hand side tyres into the dirt. He just puts his outside tyres into the dirt.
This is...
And then there goes Travis Hunt. Oh, you too, mate? Like, what? That's the only person, if they told me, oh, by the way, I'm an empath, I'd believe them.
Yeah, look, the you know how they say ride or die in Fast and Furious? The JWM Sim Sports guys take that very seriously.
There's nothing more important than family.
Absolutely not.
Right. Right. Oh my. Well, we've still got a couple of trains in a couple of places and some extra dramas for John Gallen, who's ripped parts off his car. He's going nowhere. We're 13 laps to go, and John Gallen is going nowhere.
That is a, as we call it, a monumental rip the front off that car. Both front tyres are, you can see, visibly damaged as well. So, yeah, that is a massive one. That's out of into turn 6 by the looks of it. Exit of turn 6.
He'll have gotten the right-hand curb wrong on the way into the braking zone, I reckon, where we saw Chad Lewis get it a bit wrong. Jonathan Gallen, I'm sure, might have gotten it even more wrong. Or maybe he's not where we think he is because he's so far off the track it's tripping something weird on the GPS. We go safety car.
Safety car.
With everyone having made their compulsory pit stops and 13 laps to go, with Jordan Ross leading us at the RaceKraft V8 Vets Bush Ranger 200, we go safety car. You think it's because you and I said it wouldn't happen?
David, I don't believe in curses, but when it comes to the commentator's curse, it's real. It's happened. We've just set up a fairly tantalising end to this one, I think. And you know what? I think we're willing to wear that one. Apologies to Jonathan Gallen. It's coming to cost you a race, though.
Now, if you're in the back 10, like Travis Hunt and Jeff Thomas, I reckon you, if you've got it, you go whack another set of tyres on underneath this safety car. For everyone else, I don't see it doing much other than just backing up the field. I look inside of the top 10 at who's got the freshest tyres, and the answer is Michael Stewart has got the youngest tyres inside of the top 10. Now, Jordan Ross comes around. He should get the safety car here. Where's the safety car? We've got an issue with the safety car.
Oh, no. Well, that's unfortunate. Maybe we just radio Jordan Ross and go, maintain 100 k's an hour and put your lights on, like hold your flashing light button down and you're the safety car. This is interesting, but obviously no passing under safety car conditions, so they're just all maintaining a safe race pace at the moment to get around until the safety car is able to come out on circuit.
Yeah, what's the go? There it is. That's pulled out of its pit box. Is that ready to go, that McLaren?
It's the fanciest safety car I've ever seen. Oh, here we go. It's rolling. And it'll just pick up our leader, Jordan Ross, here in the nick of time. Yep, so Jordan Ross will pick up the safety car here on the exit of turn 2, and the field will go under safety car conditions neutralised at this point to clear up Jonathan Gallen just out of turn 6 there.
I reckon there's a couple of drivers who'll appreciate the wave around. I think I've just seen Stephen Grumley is trapped behind 3rd or 4th there. Well, he's 35th position. He'll presumably get waved around in due course as we go through the safety car procedure, and the first car off the lead lap. I think it's Grumley, Buckland and Greg Sharp, and then the others like John Gallen and Chris Miller are either out of the race or out of the race, and they're also laps down. So who else has stopped relatively recently? Tim Nicol in 14th. His tyres are a bit fresher than some of those around him. And then the only drivers that are making use of this safety car to take new tyres are those well outside of the top 10. Often the safety cars seem to happen early in the race. But to get one to go green, clear the 2 compulsory pit stops, and then get a safety car very deep in the race is out of the usual form of RaceKraft V8 Vets safety cars, but it's always a possibility, and maybe we'll get a look at what happened to John Gallen in the first place. So he has left the track at speed to do the kind of damage that he's done. That's blown the motor, ripped the front off, ripped the front right off, so he's wide through 5. Surely he still it calls that. Or did he have a steering problem? So is that steering angle locked? Yeah, ish. Might have had a black screen and then just left his steering at 45 right. Christian Smart spun under safety car just now. So where is he? Pit exit on the front straight. There's the other chain link fence to get out of the pit lane. Pit exit's closed, so you've got John Gallen waiting, but how has Christian Smart ended up there? It's the concertina as they've caught the tail end of the safety car train, surely. So, there is a big checkup in front of him, but why?
Potentially checking timing or something, and has just not seen that checkup occur into turn 1.
So Stacey Boyd's who he's hit. There's plenty of space at the moment. And then we're a bit slow in behind that Shadow Racing car. And then the WK&P car pulls to the side. Don't text and drive, people.
Sim racing or real life?
Yeah, I mean, if you're moving forward, you've got to try to keep your eyes looking forward. That feels like it's a bit reductive, but it seems like good advice.
Yeah, so it looks like most people have stayed out, even though, David, you were talking about potentially for some people like Travis Hunt who are right down the back putting on some fresh boots, but looks like most people have elected to just stay out there and keep on what they've got. Greg Sharp is the only one to have stopped under the safety car and is back in 37th there, but we've just heard from race control, I believe, that next lap will be green. So everyone's gearing up here for what will end up being an 8-lap sprint to the end here on some tyres that are fairly old, with some drivers who are looking to get results here, but it's reeled Lob back into Ross, and we were seeing Lob had a bit of pace there. So can he do something with this? We'll find out very shortly.
I think John Gallen has an iRacing black flag for cutting the course on his way to the scene of the accident. Or maybe it was pit lane speed or we crossed the pit exit blend or something. Either way, bad to worse for John Gallen, who will be last car. So has he gotten his car fixed and then sped on pit lane? Pit speed limit is 55 kilometres an hour and is not engaged on John Gallen. Oh dear. So bad to worse for John Gallen. We get ready to go racing again with Jordan Ross leading the field from Darren Lobb. Ken Latta completing the podium at the moment. Wayne Walker in 4th and Logsdale in 5th. Michael Stewart, fresh tyres, back there in 7th place. Just a couple laps freshen those around him, not drastically though. And the pace car pulls away. They follow Jordan Ross at 80 kilometres an hour.
Yeah, this will be interesting to see when Jordan goes, with this control over the field. Once we go green, safety car is in pit lane now, so Jordan Ross does have control of the field here as we come through to the last turn. He's holding them, and he's gone. Last turn, bit of a fishtail there as well, but he's there out in front. Race restart number 1 after that safety car, but with a nice gap back here to Lob, so he's done well to clear himself out there.
It also stretches out the field a little bit on this restart versus if he'd waited later, that'd all be a little bit more compressed. He's gone from the front and it's all stretched out as he's gone, with Darren Lobb and Ken Latta still completing those podium spots for the moment. Wayne Walker looking pretty aggressive. In fact, Michael Stewart definitely looking pretty aggressive in terms of how close he is to the car in front as well. He's right up behind Troy Stone Street as they went through turns 3 and 4. Now through this section, wide for a late turn in from Dean Logsdale there, almost caught out Troy Stone Street, which also then concertinaed towards the car we're on board with right now, Michael Stewart.
Yep, so everyone keeping it clean at the moment, but Stewart, even though his tyres are only a few laps newer, that still makes a difference out there on track. So be curious to see if he can do anything here, but so far keeping it nice and clean. Everyone keeping it actually pretty clean from what I can hear and see at the moment, which is really good to see. But no moves looking to happen here. We've seen it all night long, their nose to tail. But with only a few laps left here, this is where we start to see that sort of desperation kick in of, oh, can I make it? Can I get that extra position? Can I go up further? Curious to see if anyone thinks a cheeky dive bomb is on.
Yeah, looking through the field for some action. I think Rob Crisdale might be under a bit of pressure from Scott McCune. 2 big movers throughout the race. It's McCune just in behind the Frog Leap juiced car of Crisdale. Just as I think maybe McCune might make some progress. David Kirby got a really good run through flying over the curbs at turns 1 and 2 as these racing cars do. If you're driving an F4 car or something, you've got to stay to the inside of those turn 1, turn 2 curbs. Cars like these, it's all about getting your inside tyres over them and hooking a little bit of that curbing. We take a look at the aptly named David Kirby.
If there's anyone born to make curbs, it was David Kirby, as he was absolutely monstering the curbs there through turn 5, 6 and into 7 as well. So now right in his own battle pack, as he has been for the better part of the last 20 laps, and we've been privy to watch that happen from on board with him on Zoom as well as on the track here.
great restart from Jordan Ross, because this really threatened the perfect race that he'd run to this point. A late race safety car could have put him in the boiling water and under pressure, but he's now brought out more than a 1 second lead over Darren Lobb. Jordan Ross, all of that clean air in front of him, and he is loving it with 6 more laps of racing to go. Darren Lobb doesn't look quite phased in second place. Ken Latta sort of 4 or 5 car lengths back rather than 2 or 3 back that would really begin to pressure Darren Lobb and capitalise off the form of any mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think these older tyres, like with this late race safety car and restart, the tyres are pretty old. So even with the cooling off a bit under the safety car, they're still going to be understeery and needing to be driven too. You can't really push the cars as hard as what you'd like to. But in saying that, Ladder has been able to really drive up to the back of people all night. So I'd be curious to see if he's able to actually get up to Lobb and, well, lob it down the inside, but we'll have to wait and see. He is down 2 from his pole position, and I'm sure would love to make up at least another position before the end of this one.
It's the camera that just is begging to show us flames on a downshift or something, but it's not happening. Not in these conditions, maybe at night. You ever think about how surely the brake rotors also glow during the day, but you just don't notice it?
It's one of the things I think about most as a motorsport photographer. I long to capture the
but they're the same
brake glow.
temperature. They're the same temperature at day and at night, but is it the amount of ambient infrared? What's happening?
That's far too scientific for a marketer like myself, mate. I'll leave that to the experts.
This is Stephen Kennedy with Logan Barnett, one of the race's biggest movers, just behind him. This has given more opportunity for Barnett to sniff out a few more positions. Logan Barnett is plus 20, and he's looking for his 21st. Tanak feels aggrieved. He's queued up the radio to race control, so he has presumably been biffed out of the way somewhere that he's not happy about. He's dropping a couple of spots just as we pick it up. Here is one of the Quantum cars, Stephen Varga behind. It's just a little bit of contact in the traction zone. Varga's all over his rear bumper. I think just at the moment that Tanak gets a little bit of wheel spin, it sends Varga into him. So Varga's like, I'm going to cross over under, and then, ooh.
That's awkward. Tanak got into hit the brakes there as well, and Varga was accelerating. So that's a very awkward incident there. And Jonathan Gallen, we're about to see, unfortunately continues to have grief tonight as he goes from one wall into the infield and cuts across. Not what you want to see. As now we're focusing on David Nash, who has spun himself out as well. With these last few laps left, we've got to make it to the end, guys. Come on, stay with us. And Jonathan Gallen's parked in the background there as well.
The light flashing on the back, I think he's still got an engine. He's on the drag strip. He's looking for the old... Stephen Varga has a black flag, but he's asking... The guy's brake lights came on. Gallen's taking the drag strip.
I think there'll be a few guys heading to race control's waiting room tonight to have a chat with them about a few incidents, because there's been some difficult ones for race control, I'll put it that way. I think I never want to be in the position of race control. They have a hard job to perform, and tonight there were some doozies for them to unroll. So we're focusing back on Jordan Ross here. So he's managed to eke that gap out enough on Lobb. Ladder just a tenth or two further behind Lobb after last checking in, but Michael Stewart is still right on the back here of Stone Street, really keeping him honest with only sort of 2.5 laps to go really here, looking and hoping to make a move, but the question is, will he get it done? And he's got to be a little bit closer to really be able to bomb it down the inside here at Winton.
There's a rival plumbing and gas guy who parks his his work vehicle on the street outside of my apartment. Won't name it. That Stone Street with his own name on the side of the WKP cars, trying to hold off Michael Stewart for the moment.
So it looks like the field's spread out a little bit now with that safety car restart. So most people have kept it pretty clean out there. A couple of little solo incidents, but otherwise we're looking back at Logan Barnett again, who is actually attacking the back of Stephen Kennedy in 17th. So continuing to try and push his charge up the field. He's already plus 20, but he thinks with a couple of laps to go, he might be able to make that plus 21.
Just taking a look, Logan Barnett did qualify. It was just about a second off pole, and it was 38th therefore. Done pretty well since then.
Yeah, absolutely. An impressive effort from him tonight, even defending on those older tyres as well, and maintaining position where it did. Like, not easy in these cars, as I'm sure people watching and yourself know, David, to keep them going and defending, even on a track like Winton, where track position is king. It's been a good drive. But now we're looking again at Stone Street and Stewart, and Logsdale as well is now brought into this, so this is a battle for the top 5 again. Just seeing, is there anything left in the tank for any of these guys as they're coming around to start their last lap? Can anyone just find something special to get a move done here?
Couple of laps behind the safety cars really just equalised it for everyone. Everyone had made their second stop. Everyone's tyres have cooled off behind the safety car, and the temperatures are equal for everyone all the way through. And well, there's sort of heaps of 4/10, 5/10 of a second gaps. Not a whole lot happening once we've sort of brought them all in alignment in strategy, in tyre temperature, and around this track here. So on the final lap, we're looking at your top 3. Jordan Ross with a comfy 1.5 seconds in his pocket. Darren Lobb holding on to second as Ken Latter. Surely he can't risk too much. He's already looking at a podium here, but he's already looking all over Darren Lobb, trying to cross back through the long, tight right-hander. There's just not enough opportunities knocking on this final lap.
A lot of wheel spin there for Ladder as well, as he came out of there. And I think really the last opportunity here was shaking his head there in disappointment. Last opportunity is down here. Won't get it done, I don't think, unless Lobb makes a mistake. But a good effort by these guys. Ross, even before the safety car, didn't get too far away. But here we go. Jordan Ross, even without taking pole, has taken the race win here. 6 in a row, round 6 of the series. Pole position or not, he's gotten it done. Darren Lobb, Ken Latter, fill out your top 3. Interesting race to watch tonight, David. Certainly a bit of strategy playing into it.
Even when he's not perfect in qualifying, he's perfect in the racing. Another win for Jordan Ross as the rest of the field take the checkered flag, compressed after the late safety car. There goes Christian Smart. I've just seen Travis Hunt try to launch his car over the curb, and Jeff Thomas, his teammate. Those guys are not going to be clamouring to come back to Winton Motor Raceway anytime soon. Multiple times, multiple incidents, and sometimes in sympathy for Travis Hunt and his teammate Jeff Thomas. Darren Lobb and Ken Latter completed that podium. And it's a cool down lap and a victory lap all in one for Jordan Ross.
Yep, that's exactly it. Look, tonight it was nice to see that Jordan, no offence to Jordan, The other guys kind of brought it to him in qualifying. We saw it definitely a little bit closer there, but as we see the results here, he still managed to snag that win. So Jordan Ross in first, the championship leader, taking another winner, making that 6 in a row. Darren Lobb second, Kenneth Latter third. Wayne Walker fourth after all that. We thought his strategy might bring him in a bit more, but unfortunately it didn't. Dean Logsdale in fifth, Troy Stonestreet sixth, Michael Stewart seventh, Michael Whiting eighth, Justin McLean ninth, and Mark Poynton rounding out our top 10 here tonight at Winton.
Scott Mackay, I don't know where the time went for him, having qualified third. He ends up finishing 11th, lost a lot of time around the second pit stop that dropped him out of the top 10. He ends up ahead of Damien Cairns, Tim Nicol, John Latham, Dan Hall, Stacey Boyd, Stephen Kennedy, Logan Barnett, Luke Allman, and Dean Flavel. Dino Dino being accurately guessed most occasions by David Haynes tonight. Darren Crosby in 21st from Robert Crisdale, Scott McCune, David Kirby, Chad Lewis, Darren Goosey, Wayne Sanderson, Travis Hunt in 28th at the end of all of that, with Brad Dorbel 29th and Christian Smart 30th.
And rounding out our field tonight, David Nash in 31st, Stephen Grumley 32nd, Gary Buckland 33rd, Greg Sharp 34th, Bruce Tannick 35th, Stephen Varga 36th, Jeff Thomas 37th, Jonathan Gallen 38th after leaving the server as well with his issues, Chris Miller 39th, and rounding out the 40-car field, Jamie McKnight, who clearly left very early in the night. Didn't even start the race, is what we're hearing here, which makes sense. And then his Fishy's Motorsports teammate and Chris Miller as well, leaving fairly early on. So 40 cars, big field, and some good racing out there. But Jordan Ross is our winner at the end of the night.
Yeah, so that's your top 38 making at least 75% of race distance and being classified finishes, with 2 that didn't make the cut. Scroll, I go in search of who's standing by. First to come chat, looks like it's going to be our winner. So I think I've spoken to him once or twice. Have you spoken to Jordan yet this season?
A couple of times, either or, mate.
Well, he joins us right now, the race winner, Jordan Ross. And let's go back to qualifying. 4th place in a field of 40 cars is still a good grid position, but I don't think today the grid quite matched up with the race pace in a couple of occasions. So what do you think made qualifying less representative than some other rounds?
Mate, those guys just did a really good job. I think it was Kenny on pole and Darren P2, and that front row just did a really good job. And I did an okay lap. My second lap, I was up and had a bit of an off, but yeah, it's all good. It's the race pace was not too bad. So congrats to Darren and Kenneth for being mega competitive tonight. Thanks.
Late race safety car just to keep us all on our toes. Looked like it was going to go green the whole way, and then we restart with just 10 laps to go.
Yeah, I was mindful when I come out of the pits each time to not use my tyres too much, in case there was a safety car. So I was I know that Darren and Kenneth had fresher tyres, but there's heaps of marbles on the outside of the track, so it would have been mega hard to pass, and I saved a bit of tyre for that purpose.
And it works out perfect. So Winton internationally doesn't get a whole lot of love, a lot of history to Australia. Any sort of corners, curbs, braking zones, traction zones that were just tough to repeatedly get right for 67 laps?
Yeah, obviously the first chicane, turn 1 and 2, it's hard to get right every lap. And through I think it was 6, 7, 8, as the race went on, the marbles built up. That's why it was important to get track position early, because if I had to try and make a pass late in the race, it would have been near impossible with all the marbles.
running out of things to ask you here. Like, what's new? What's different? How's the focus for the season, and what do you do different race to race in circumstances like these?
No, the guys are really, like, it might seem easy. It's certainly not. Like, I'm putting a few laps, and like Kenneth and Darren were mega quick tonight. Even, you know, like when I was sort of out front, I actually fueled the car right on the limit because I wasn't, you know, like I wasn't sure how it would play out with Darren after the pit stops. He'll probably learn a little bit from that, and probably won't let me undercut him on a track like this again, I'd say. But mate, I'm just enjoying vets. I'm enjoying every race. I like just hey, you can turn up and just concentrate on driving. It's really enjoyable, and all the guys out there race tough but fair.
Well, congratulations. I think Supercars used to give out snow skis as a trophy around here. It didn't look that cold today, but whatever. I hope you can celebrate and enjoy the victory.
Thanks, guys, and as always, thanks to you guys at SimSpeed turning up and putting it on each week, and obviously the organisers of Vets do a great job, and all the competitors. Thanks, see ya.
Brock, you're the Supercars history buff here. What trophy am I thinking about? They give out surfboards on the Gold Coast. They used to give out snowboards here.
I can't quite remember, but it would make sense. Winton is in and around, I guess, that high country area to be giving out that sort of prize to Winton winners. I mean, it's been a hot minute since Supercars have actually been at Winton as well. So we're trying to revive it and convince them to go back there again.
Yeah. Supercars ended up dropping everything that wasn't a local state government sponsored round. As it turned out, we've got our other drivers that have dropped by to have a chat here, Brock. So, second place, Darren Lobb.
I'll drag him in here. Here he is. G'day, Darren. Well done on second place, mate. That was an excellent start. Talk us through your mindset after that start and nabbing the lead.
Yeah, thanks. Hello, guys. I was in a heap of different minds actually. This is probably the first time in a while that I've done a race in the lead up to Vets, and there was absolutely no passing in the league race that I did on Tuesday night. So I kind of sat there and I thought, do I bolt and just drag everyone along and kind of spread the field, or do I try and back everybody up, drive at a comfortable pace, save tyres, and hope nobody else can field save behind me because the field's so tight? And that's obviously the option that I ended up going with. What I then struggled doing is driving slowly without making mistakes, you know, as you kind of lose concentration of it. And yeah, Jordan just got me on a better strat. I was planning to put 2 laps short of when I needed to, and when he dived in, you know, 3 laps short of when I needed to, that was kind of me gone. He was right over my bumper, and I knew the undercut had me done. So at that stage, I had to kind of run the fuel out and hope something would happen a little bit later in the race. I feel like the early part of the stint, I was probably a little bit quicker than him, but the last half of the stint, he could just edge away 0.1, 0.2 a lap. So a little bit boring, tiring. It's hard to keep pushing at 20 to 1 in the morning here in New Zealand. It gets a little bit difficult to bring the animal out. But anyway, I'll take the result.
I mean, look, you're doing pretty well, mate. I got to give that to you. And look, I got to ask, like, I was very impressed today because probably in my time commentating with V8 Vets, this is the first time I've seen, you know, yourself and a bit of Ken Latter and everything really bring the pace to Jordan Ross. So did you feel that today, that you were on par and even a bit quicker than him throughout the course of the race? Because we were certainly seeing it in the timing.
If I got to be honest, probably not. I was, you know, we were always a lap or two different. You know, kind of that first stint was the first stint. You know, I was kind of just backing everybody up then. But Jordan put it a little bit earlier than me in that first stint. So I had a 2-lap tyre advantage with him. So the only time you had a comparison of lap times, I had 2-lap better tyres than him. And that kind of rolled out that second pit stop as well, that I had I think 2 or 3 lap better tyres than him. So it was that initial, I could get that first fly in, and then I was just dropping 0.2 a lap until that point that we stabilized and started doing the same lap times. And then I started to drop back a little bit more, and he could maintain that kind of 22.5, 22.6 pace. So yeah, definitely closer to him. I think it's maybe a little bit just the nature of the circuit. But it's, yeah, I'm going to need to get my butt in the seat and just spend more time driving, particularly the vet set, if we really want to make him work hard for it tonight. But it's far better than the first race of the season that I did, where he kind of spooned us all for it by about 20 seconds. I'll definitely take a 2-second gap this time and lead a couple laps. But no, I think he's still got manners on us, and I think we still got to sharpen our tools to get closer to him.
No, well, you've absolutely closed that gap, and even before the safety car, like you were keeping that within that 2 to 3 second gap, which was excellent. I guess the last question I'll ask before I let you go to sleep, because it is late in New Zealand, is what was it like with Ken Latta behind you? Obviously, he was keeping you honest quite a bit of that race. Did you have to change your lines or your mindset, or with Winton being hard to pass around, was it pretty easy to stay focused on your goal?
Yeah, it's pretty easy. I think it's the Australian version of Monaco, just not as glamorous. Unfortunately with these cars, there's been a lot of talk, kind of in the last week or so about, the racing is quite boring. Everybody's really close because it's, the cars are, I suppose, a little bit easier to get closer together than what the old cars are. The old cars, you could extract a little bit more pace out of them. So you end up running a lot closer to each other, but without having, kind of roll bar adjustments in the car during the course of a race. The racing, I found, tends to be a little bit follow my leader like. So it was, coming in, I knew it was probably, as long as I ran traditional lines and didn't make too many stupid mistakes, Ken was going to have to door me somewhere to get past. But it's kind of one of those funny things, because the safety car comes out and, I kind of think, geez, where can I get Jordan? And, you run through different sections of the track and go, I'm going to try to put the bumper in somewhere and, make him work for it. And then you kind of go, oh, should I just hang on to second? And you're going, oh, what if Ken does the same thing to me? Inevitably, you all get that jump and you sit half a second apart and you lap the last 7 laps like that. So not much of a mindset change, just kind of hit your apexes, hit your brake marks, and get good traction on the way out. And unfortunately, the nature of Winton in these Gen 3 cars, you follow your leader.
Interesting to hear that from you, Darren. We were speculating about that in the comms box as well. Well, congratulations on the second, mate. You've shown a heap of pace this season. Before I let you go, is there anyone you want to thank or shout out?
Just a big thanks to the boys from DPR and my local sport here in New Zealand, Barry Manon from MRP, Sim Racing Gear. Thanks always for the support, and thanks you guys for cheering us on every week while we're sitting having a bit of fun on our play race cars.
Thanks, Darren, and thank you very much. Well done again tonight, mate. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, man.
Keep on rolling through the podium as we can. So we do have Ken Latta, 3rd place, standing by to meet us. Great qualifying performance, Ken.
Yeah, I think that was a personal best, so I managed to pull that one out of the bag, finally get the lap right, and it was a bit frustrating in practice. I didn't seem to be able to do anything right then, and I got it right at the right time, so that was fantastic.
Also, a good bit of race pace at the right time, because after your first stop, and Wayne Walker had a bit of an undercut on a couple of you guys, he also took a bit of fuel, decent hit of fuel at his first stop, and I thought he might have had net second, but then, your tyres lit up just right, Darren Lobb as well, and through the mid-stint, you guys had the pace that shoved him out of a podium spot eventually.
Yeah, well, I was stuck behind him in the middle stint, and I reckon it cost me easily a second and a half, because I had pace, and that was the difference between me getting Lob and not getting him. And because when we came out of the pits on the second stop, we were basically side by side, and I had to yield because he was on the inside. So he was just got me.
Yeah, and with the difficulty of on-track passing at Winton that Darren Lobb just described as less glamorous Monaco, I guess that sort of strategy stuff, the clean air, it was all tough to gauge from the driver's seat, but super important in the end.
No, most definitely. This track is near on impossible to pass unless someone makes a mistake.
And that's the Google review you're going to leave?
That's what I'm leaving. I love the track. I love driving the track, but yeah, it's just very difficult to pass.
Well, you, in the end, net yourself a podium. A tough day for a couple of your Fishy Motorsports teammates, though. I think our two drivers that won't be classified are Chris Miller and Jamie McKnight.
Yeah, I'm not really too sure what happened with... I didn't know what happened with Jamie at all. I know Chris went off, I think it was turn 3, I think it was, but I'm not sure what happened. And he left before he could sort of say anything, so...
How important is the team aspect in this championship? There's a few teams that have got a fair chunk of drivers going on. What do you gain from being part of something like that?
Well, when the team is working together and we're practicing together, then we're able to sort of run stints together and like do race runs and sort of fight with each other and stuff like that. So that sort of prepares yourself for like race ready for the race. And because if you're just practicing by yourself, it sort of makes it a little bit difficult to sort of, I don't know, just. It's hard to explain, but just be completely ready, particularly like when you get into the heat of the moment of battle.
Which is more in fashion this year, cream or off-white?
Cream or off-white? I don't know. Must be cream in it, isn't it?
Good tips. Hey, Thanks for coming to chat. Congrats on the podium, and hopefully we can see more great racing for the remainder of the season.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. I'm sure we will, and I learned a bit about the car this time, so hopefully it translates into a bit more pace for the rest of the season.
Beauty, we'll catch you around.
All right, awesome. Do I have to thank you guys and Race
Go ahead
Control?
And do that
well, thanks Race Control and you guys for the broadcasts. I'll be watching it after the race is over. All the guys at Fishy, Jordan, once again, he did the master stroke with a good strategy, and Lob as well. He raced really well tonight. And all our sponsors, I've got to bring them up. West End Motor Group, Infinity Design, DC Shades, Battery Warehouse, Ellie Beach, Precision Sim Training. Thank you.
Thanks, Ken.
Cheers.
There we go. I got a smile out of Ken Latta there somehow. This is our look at our championship standings and everything that we've got to look forward to for the remainder of this season of RaceKraft V8 Vets, Brock.
Yeah, so Ken Latta and Darren Lobb in a strong position after a strong night out there as well. Jordan Ross, of course, out the front of this one with his 6 wins in 6 rounds, so very impressive. So you got Ross first, Latta second, Lobb in third, Walker fourth. Again tonight, we thought there was a bit more in store for him, but not quite. Mark Poynton in 5th, Dean Logsdale 6th, Scott Mackay 7th, Troy Stone Street 8th, Justin McLean 9th, and Luke Allman rounds out that top 10. Still a lot to play for throughout that whole top 10, but definitely Latta, Lobb and Walker are like the 3 guys we're looking for there.
So we're thinking about our driver of the day from Winton, and you know, I always want to say it should go to someone not on the podium who put in a good performance, unless they put in a really good performance to get on the podium. But I'm not the type that wants to reward, you know, poor qualifying or not qualifying or whatever. But I've got my vote in mind.
Look, I do too. I do agree with that sentiment, but equally you've got to reward some great tyre management with a lot of positions made up and people that really put in the effort to get through the field. And particularly tonight with a field that only had a couple of cars that really DNF'd in the form of those 2 Fishy Motorsport cars. So it was a fairly complete field at the end of it all.
Well, if you and I are in agreement, then that's a majority. We can outvote Daniel Yeaman and not need to negotiate with any crossbench here. The driver of the day, with 20 positions gained, is Logan Barnett. He did qualify. It was only a bit over a second away from pole, but it put him 38th on the grid at this incredibly tight field, at this incredibly tight track. And then he was clean all the way through, made some good calls on the strategy, obviously, and also a couple of passes on track. So Logan Barnett is the Chubby Bunsberger's driver of the day from Winton.
Yeah, very well deserved there, I think. We were watching him all race, and I think more than anything, yeah, there was a bit of strategy that played in there, but it was just the ability to manage the tyres and keep position even when he was on 10, 15 lap old tyres. It was a very impressive drive for Logan.
So looking forward to what's next for the RaceKraft V8 Vets Championship. You'll see it here on SimSpeed TV, so make sure you're following us whichever platform you prefer. We can't wait to have you back again in 1 week's time, next Thursday night, from Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. I note that it's the name of the track. Tire should be with an I, not with a Y, because Canadian Tire is the business. Canadian Tire Motorsports Park Mosport. In 1 week's time. That is a track very different to Winton. That is high average speeds and very, very flowing, Brock.
Yeah, look, we talked about loaded corners in Winton. Canadian Tire is known for it, and we're not talking slow corners. Most of Canadian Tire is long, flowing, fast corners. So in these supercars, which have low downforce and not a lot of grip, these guys are going to be working hard out there to find pace and make the tyres last through their stints.
Well, I have been David Haynes with Brock Cat-Eye, Daniel Yeaman in the production here on SimSpeed TV. Thank you so much to all the partners that make V8 Vets and the coverage possible, including title sponsor RaceKraft and all the others like Chubby Buns on board to support this league, taking it from strength to strength, including up to 4 splits this season. There's so much V8 Vets. So we look forward to next round. We thank Logitech G, Nova Sim Sports, Parramatta Isuzu Ute, Player One Sim Gear, LGC Images, SudSpeed, RaceKraft Simulations, and Chubby Buns Burgers. We'll see you at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park.